Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting of the House Local Government Committee to
Order.
order, I guess, yeah. Sorry, to order. Um, As before we get into the legislation, we need to take a roll call. So Christina, if you want to call the roll.
Chairman Freeman,
Here,
Representatives Borowski,
by designation.
Serrato,
Designation.
Here.
Donahue, Fleming, Hambidge,
She's by designation, but she's also, I think, online.
Representative Kazim,
By designation.
Madsen,
Designation.
Monroe,
Designation.
Probst,
Also by designation, but I believe she's online as well.
Prokopiak,
Uh,
online.
Representative Prokopiak is online, but by designation.
Salisbury,
By designation.
Sappy,
Designation.
Smith Waddell.
Designation.
Chairman James.
Present.
Representatives Banta,
By designation.
Here.
And there.
Representative Fink,
Designation.
Fritz,
Designation.
Jones,
Designation.
Kuzma,
Designation.
Miller, Rader,
Designation.
Rinkavage,
Designation.
Watro,
Designation.
Wentling.
Designation.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum and can proceed. I'd like to call on Chairman James to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please rise. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry.
We also do have someone I want to introduce today. I have a intern in our office, Miller Mason, who is over there. He's a native of Silver Spring Township in Cumberland County, recent graduate of the Robert Morris University, where he majored in mechanical engineering, and he is participating in the House Legislative Fellowship Program for the fall semester, and he's been assigned to the House Local Government Committee. So welcome. Okay, we will now move on to the legislation before us today. Our first bill is House Bill 1379, a Malagari bill. Do I hear a motion to bring the bill up? Moved by Mr. Fleming and seconded by Mr. Donahue. John, do you want to give us an overview of the bill? Oh, sorry.
Okay, House Bill 1379 is Representative Malagari's bill. The bill would amend the Special Ad Hoc Municipal Police and Firefighter Post-Retirement Adjustment Act, that's Act 147 of 1988, to further provide for ad hoc cost of living adjustments for qualified local police and firefighter annuitants. The bill would require that a municipal retirement system provide an ad hoc cost of living adjustment, or COLA, to any police officer or firefighter who retired on or before January 1st, 2019. And the COLA amount provided under the bill would be based on the number of years the individual was retired. For those retired 5 to 10 years, the amount would be an additional $75 a month. For those retired between 10 and 20 years, $150 a month, and those retired 20 or more years, $300 a month. Under the bill, if an annuitant is eligible to receive a COLA from more than one participating system, then the COLA would be reduced so that the total number of all COLAs paid does not exceed the amount stated in the bill based on years of retirement. Further, if an annuitant received a COLA after January 1st, 2002, then the adjustment provided under the bill would be reduced by 65% of the total number of any COLA provided to the retiree under the municipal retirement plan and paid in the previous year. The bill also provides a mechanism to reimburse municipal pension systems for a portion of the amortized cost of the COLAs. Municipal pension systems would be eligible for reimbursement for these costs prorated by the amount of state aid as a share of municipal pension contributions. And the state reimbursements are provided through the General Municipal Pension System State Aid Program, which is administered by the Auditor General. And the program is funded by tax revenues generated from the insurance premiums tax via transfers from the general fund.
I did notice the presence of Mr. Malagari. Do you care to make a few comments on your bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, both chairmen, and appreciate your willingness to hear me speak on this briefly. So an iteration of this bill has been brought forward in previous sessions and now it's a different iteration. However, it does speak to the fact that we haven't offered a cost of living adjustment for these particular members in over 20 years. And it's important to note that there is ability for some payback to this, some reimbursement for that. And I believe that it's our duty to be there for our public members and employees, especially those that work in police and fire services. A lot of these members have been put under duress throughout their career, and now they're being put under duress with just paying for general life. We know that inflation since the last COLA has been put forward is close to probably 70% since then. I think it's our duty to do good for them as they did for us throughout their career. And I offer and ask that we have an affirmative vote on it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your comments. We do have an amendment that's being offered by Representative Miller. Mr. Miller, do you want to make the motion? Okay. And the second from Chairman James. And Rob, do you wish to give an overview of Mr. Miller's amendment?
Sure. Is this working? Okay, the light's not working. Representative Miller's Amendment A5652 amends House Bill 1376 to require the General Assembly to prepay the total amount of unfunded liability as determined by IFO through the distribution prior to the implementation of the COLA. So that would be the $342.2 million upfront from the general fund, as noted by the IFO in their note on this bill.
Discussion on the amendment. Representative Miller?
Thank you. Thank you very much for allowing for the amendment here today. As was highlighted here in the overview, what this amendment would do would require a prepayment of the obligation. As we know that from the IFO note that did the study on this, the obligation that this bill would require is $342 million. So obviously, as when someone gets hired and they enter into the agreement, the municipalities and others put money in, the taxpayers put money in to match the pension obligation for that person for their terms of service, and when they retire, they will then get whatever was according to what they agreed to. So in this case, what the bill does is seek to increase that obligation, $342 million, for which $0 had put in over the years to cover the obligation. This will ultimately be borne by the taxpayers. And at this time when municipalities are facing all types of financial strains, there's only one place to go to get that money, and that is through increasing taxes. So what my bill would do is require the General Assembly to prepay the obligation, thereby alleviating the pressure from the municipalities, not requiring a property tax increase, and thereby meeting the obligations of the bill as set forth. I think it's prudent. The last thing we need to do is increase the unfunded obligation for our municipalities to make the problem worse. Remember, it's not only these retirees we need to care for, it's those who aren't in these various systems who are also subject to this that will retire in the future. So the last thing we need to do is add pressure on the taxpayers to increase property taxes and weaken the fund for future retirees. So I'm urging a yes vote on my amendment. Thank you.
Thank the gentleman. Additional discussion? Representative Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I appreciate Representative Malagari bringing this forward, and I'm supportive of other initiatives he has to increase the cost of living adjustment for state workers and teachers, retired teachers as well. On the gentleman's amendment, I would encourage a no vote simply because I think it is. We don't do that in any other system. We don't ask for, in any other retirement system, for the full liability to be paid prior to any benefits going out. I think it would set a terrible precedent. I think what is called for in this bill for the General Assembly to provide additional funding to municipalities in order to meet their obligation is more than sufficient, and so I would encourage a no vote. Thank you.
Thank the gentleman. Just as a point of reference to the fiscal note, under fiscal impact noted that the fiscal impact on the Pennsylvania municipal retirement system as a whole is negligible. Moreover, because the costs are reimbursed by the Commonwealth in terms of their contribution to the general municipal pension system state aid program, the fiscal impact to the individual municipalities would likely be negligible as well. I think the point brought up by Mr. Fleming was rather appropriate too, in that we don't really prepay all the liability at once in any system that we can think of that we've ever dealt with this. So for that reason, I will be urging a no vote. And I do want to appreciate the gentleman's thoughtfulness, though. Representative Miller is one of the more thoughtful members of our committee, and I appreciate his effort to try and address an issue. Any other discussion? Representative Miller.
Thank you for your comments. And I would just add that just because this has not been something that has been done in the past does not mean it's not a reason that we don't do it now. Despite the fact that something like this has not been done does not obviate the fact there will be a financial obligation to the taxpayers that will have to bear the cost of this because the monies were not put in by that retiree and the systems through all the years, but will now be borne by the property tax owners or property taxpayers because of this obligation that's been foisted upon them. I think it is, though it's not been done in the past per se, does not mean we shouldn't do it, and it also doesn't mean that this is not helpful to the taxpayers going forward. So I think that it is a prudent fiscal decision, something that we can do as a General Assembly to help our local property tax payers. And I think it's, again, I urge a yes vote. Thanks.
Okay, seeing no other people being recognized for comments, we'll move to a roll call vote can we do it by voice vote, do you think? All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye.
Matter of fact, all Republicans are yes on the amendment.
Okay. All those bills signify by saying nay. Nay.
Nay.
And all the Democrats who are by designation or joining us virtually will be listed as nay as well. That brings us to 1411 is the vote. So the motion fails. That brings us to the bill in chief, and Chairman James had wanted to make some comments regarding it.
It is working. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for showing up today. With regard to this COLA, many of the arguments make a certain degree of sense, but that notwithstanding that, most of our municipalities, at least the ones I've heard from, which include boroughs, township commissioners, township supervisors, are opposed to this bill. I believe that the success of this program depends largely on the premium dollars that we raise annually in the insurance premium tax fund. And there's no guarantee that we'll do $35, $40, $45 million every year to pay for this increase. I think that's what has everyone worried. That's also why we all voted in favor of the amendment, which just failed. So I just wanted to get that on the record, that we recognize the worry that is out there by our elected officials locally as we proceed on this course. That's it.
I thank the gentleman for his comments. Moving on to the bill. Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Miller, my apologies.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate what Chairman said, that this bill is opposed by the Pennsylvania Municipal League, the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Commissioners, Pennsylvania Boroughs Association, and PSATs, all of which we serve in serving our communities. A vote for this bill, because the amendment was not put in it, was not adopted in it, will be a vote to increase taxes locally. Real estate property taxes, at least in our area, one of the biggest issues we face. I think that's true for most of the people here in this committee and throughout the Commonwealth. That property taxes are probably one of the biggest issues we hear about back home. So a vote for this bill is a vote to increase property taxes. So I urge a no vote. I'm sorry, as much as I'm in favor of these individuals who have served us, it's also going to be borne by the folks back home in terms of increased property taxes. Thank you.
I thank the gentleman for his comments. In terms of the bill, any other questions or comments before we move on to the vote? Representative Fleming.
Yeah, very briefly. Thank you, Chairman. And I respect and have the utmost respect for the PSATs and the Municipal League and their opinion. And I understand that perspective. I just want to offer two things. Typically, having been in local government, as the gentleman from Lancaster was as well, we in fact bonded over that issue when I was an advocate. Oftentimes the local property, when we talk about property tax increases, the largest shares of property tax increases are typically borne by school districts, and then the county is number two. So and in a lot of these areas, a lot of our municipalities, might I remind everybody, don't have paid fire service. They're all volunteer, and the police forces, a lot of them are being covered by state police. So we're talking about very few law enforcement agencies, and the ones that would, I believe that passing this bill and the additional funding that will come from the Commonwealth to provide the reimbursement for municipal pensions, I think that will be sufficient to cover this. So I just want to disagree with the gentleman's notion that this will guarantee a property tax increase. I don't necessarily think that's the case. So I wanted to have that on the record. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your comments. I guess we can do a voice vote again. All those in favor of the bill, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
That roll call would be better.
Okay,
Aye.
I'm sorry. Christina?
Chairman Freeman.
Yes.
Representatives Borowski,
Yes, by designation.
Serrato,
Yes, by designation.
Donahue. Fleming. Hambidge,
Yes, by designation.
Kazim,
Yes, by designation.
Madsen,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes, by designation.
Probst,
Yes, by designation.
Prokopiak,
Yes, by designation.
Salisbury,
Yes, by designation.
Sappy,
Yes, by designation.
Smith Waddell.
Yes, by designation.
Chairman James.
Yes
Representatives Banta,
is a yes,
Fink,
is a no,
Fritz,
yes
Jones,
is a no,
Kuzma,
yes,
Miller, Rader,
yes.
Rinkavage,
Wait a minute. Raiders a no. Sorry.
that's okay. Rinkavage,
Yes,
Watro,
yes,
Wentling.
yes.
21 to 5. Wait, 21 to 4.
Okay, vote was 21 to 4, so the bill is going to be reported to the floor for consideration. Before we move on to our next bill, I just want to advise the members, and congratulations, Representative Malagari. Before we move on to the next bill, I just want to remind the members that there is a sign-in sheet that's being circulated. Since this is a non-voting day, you might want to sign in to be recognized for what that brings.
Mileage.
Mileage and per diem. Okay, so that'll be making the rounds of the table. Next, we'll move on to House Bill 1759, Representative Hambidge's bill. Is there a motion to bring up the bill? Representative Donahue, and seconded by Representative Fleming. John, do you want to give a brief overview of the legislation?
House Bill 1759 is Representative Hanbridge's bill. The bill would amend the Uniform Condominium Act, which is found in Chapter 31 of Title 68, Real Property of the Consolidated Statutes. The bill would prevent a unit owners association from prohibiting or restricting the installation or use of a solar energy system on a detached roof or townhouse unit within the community.
Any discussion on the bill before we get into the amendments? Oh,
Before we get
or
into
actually,
the
we'll
amendment?
we'll take that after the amendments. I apologize. There are two amendments. One is mine, Amendment A05639. John, would you like to give an overview of that? Oh, I'm sorry. Motion on the amendment. Fleming, and seconded by Freeman.
Amendment A05639 is Chairman Freeman's amendment. The amendment would extend the applicability of the act to planned communities, in addition to condominium, which is presently covered under the bill. It also provides that the governing documents of an association may provide reasonable regulation of solar energy systems for the following purposes. One, to require solar energy systems to meet applicable health and safety standards and requirements imposed by state and local permitting authorities. Two, to require that if the solar energy system is used to heat water, it is certified by the Solar Rating and Certification Corporation or other nationally recognized certification agency. Three, it requires that solar energy systems used to produce electricity meet all applicable safety and performance standards established by the National Electric Code, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, accredited testing laboratories, and applicable rules of agencies of the Commonwealth regarding safety and reliability. It requires that a solar energy system frame, a support bracket, or visible piping or wiring be painted to coordinate with the roofing material. And it would require that a unit owner installing a solar energy system indemnify or reimburse the association or its members for loss or damage caused by the installation, maintenance, or use of the solar energy panels. And finally, it provides authorization to provide reasonable rules regarding the placement of solar energy systems to maintain the aesthetic qualities of the buildings and grounds of the community. I would mention these are suggestions. These were recommendations provided by the Community Associations Institute, which represents common interest ownership communities within the Commonwealth.
Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, we'll take a, oh, I'm sorry, Representative Miller.
Thank you for offering the amendment. I think the amendment largely covers the need to provide for the HOAs to set forth helpful guidelines to protect the rest of the community. I would just offer that I think there might be some areas of improvement to the amendment that I can talk to you offline about, maybe adjusting it slightly that have worked in other places I think might be helpful as well. So
I look
leave it
forward
at
to our
that.
conversation. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those who are listed as vote by designation are ayes on the Democratic side,
Same as ours.
and so are the Republicans. Thank you. Okay. That brings us to our next amendment.
Just the amendment.
Oh, the amendment passes. Added to the bill. Our second amendment is by Representative Miller. It's Amendment A05650. Is there a motion to bring it up? Moved by the gentleman, Mr. Miller.
Second.
Seconded by Chairman James. Rob, do you want to give an overview?
Yes, I'll give an overview, but I also believe that your amendment knocks it out of order because it deletes the section of law that his amendment is amending. Not that I'm trying to argue against my own member's amendment,
No,
but
I
I'm just
appreciate
trying to
it.
be technically
I
correct here.
appreciate your clarity.
I'm sorry,
No, that's what we pay you the big bucks for, so we appreciate that.
because his amendment amends page 2, line 27, which your bill strikes out, your amendment strikes out.
Oh, and we added it.
Yeah, so that the section he's amending is no longer in the bill. So,
We'll see what.
since you
legal-
adopted the other amendment.
That probably preempts it, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the amendment then is out of order. Thank you for
We would have to,
clarification.
just for, sorry, Representative Miller, I just, technically
it's-
correct. Don't want to cause,
I appreciate your catching that. But perhaps Representative Miller might want to offer it on the floor. So, okay, so that leaves us with the bill in chief, and I know that Chairman James wanted to speak to it.
I do.
Oh, that's right.
On this bill, I'm just going to use homeowners association to cover all the different varieties of living opportunities that we have these days. People move into these areas with the expectation and the understanding of who is going to guide the living quarters going forward, and they all sign agreements, legal agreements, that an organization will make these decisions. I feel that it is inconsistent with contract law to pursue this course of action. Pretty soon, if we make an exception for solar panels, which I get, I even like solar panels. If we make an exception for that, then what exception are we going to make next? And what comes after that? And pretty soon, you have no government anymore. So our team today will be no on the overall bill, even though we have voted yes on the amendments, for that reason. Okay?
I thank the gentleman. Representative Hambidge is joining us virtually, so did she wish to make comment on her own legislation?
Thank you, Chairman, for bringing this up. I think this is a really good way to allow people to be energy efficient, to reduce their carbon footprint, and to be able to do so in a way that's respectful of their communities. So I really appreciate the support.
We thank you for your comments. With that, we will take the bill in chief up for consideration. All those in favor of reporting it to the floor of the House, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All designated Democrats are ayes. All those opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay.
And I assume all designated Republicans are nay.
Correct.
So the bill is reported out 1411. That brings us to the next bill, which is a Brennan bill, House Bill 2240. John, do you wish to give an overview of the legislation? Oh, first, is there a motion to bring up the bill? So moved by the gentleman, Mr. Fleming, and seconded by the gentleman, Mr. Donahue. John, you want to give an overview?
House Bill 2240 is Representative Brennan's bill. The legislation would amend Title 68, Real and Personal Property of the Consolidated Statutes, to require that a county planning agency prepare and maintain information on each common interest ownership community located within the county, and that would include condominiums, planned communities, and real estate cooperatives. The bill stipulates that the following information shall be included in the agency's annual report: the name of the common interest ownership community, the location, total land area, number of units, and infrastructure. Infrastructure information must include, to the extent reasonably available to the county government, details on the presence of sanitary sewer, water and stormwater systems, recreation facilities, and roadways. And also, going forward, upon the creation of a new common interest ownership community, a declarant must submit to the county planning agency a statement including the information required in the annual report. I would simply mention that this legislation is actually implementing a recommendation that was contained in the 2011 study by the Joint State Government Commission entitled Common Interest Ownership Communities in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That study was authorized by the House in resolution form, and it was updated in 2022. And that was the intent of this legislation, to comply with that recommendation. And Representative Brennan wanted that to be stated. He's unable to participate today.
Okay, is there any further discussion regarding the legislation? Representative Miller?
Thank you. I want to note that there's nothing preventing this from occurring now, and I'm sure that it already is. I'm not sure that the mandate is anywhere necessary or even helpful. I would point out that as far as the information that's requested, the better source of that, I think, would be the water authorities or the sewer authorities. If that's the information that they're largely seeking, they're going to have the specific information related to that. Requiring this, I'm not sure what it actually gets, but I would point out an interesting thing here. If you have a municipality that approves these things, and let's say there's a 50 acre tract of land here and a 50 acre tract of land there, this one comes in to establish a CIOC, and they want to put up, say, 300 homes. And this one doesn't, they just want to put up 300 homes. But this law would require this one to report this one, but there would be no reporting of the other 50 acre tract. The same amount of impact, same amount of sewer and water and anything. Like, I'm not sure what this bill does. It seems like I understand the recommendation from the study that was done historically, but I'm not sure what it really accomplishes, because they can get this information now, and furthermore, most of this information can be obtained from the municipal authorities that are out there. So I think this is not necessarily, and I would urge a no vote. Thank you.
Thank the gentleman. I would point out that one of the reasons this is being proposed is that even though they could provide this information, most do not. And so this information is very valuable to the planning commissions, which utilize it for various purposes, and also to deal with mitigating of impacts of catastrophes and other various failures of infrastructure that have to be considered as well. Any other comments? Oh, sorry, Representative James, or Chairman James.
Yeah, just real quick on this one. So for 13 years, we've kind of limped along. The information has been out there and available, but we haven't needed it. So the question is, for whom are we compiling data? Who's going to use it? County Commissioners Association opposed this. No huge surprise there. But their reasons are the extra expense, the redundancy. Do they have sufficient, I guess, person power is the appropriate recognizable word, and time available. And I think they're correct in this. The benefits of compiling this information appear to be elusive. Done.
Thank you. I thank the gentleman. I just would like to note that one of the problems that we face now is that the information is not readily available. It's not being compiled. And this would address that issue to make sure that those statistics and information can be utilized by planning departments and address a whole array of other uses that come into play. With that, any more discussion before we go on to a vote? Seeing none, all those in favor of the legislation, please signify by saying aye. 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 All the Democrats are by designation aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
And designation?
Designation, no.
And all the Republicans are no vote by designation. Okay, the bill is reported out by a vote of 14 to 11. That brings us to the next bill, Freeman Bill, House Bill 2449. That is a local government commission bill. Did you want to give an overview or defer to the local government commission? Do we need a motion to bring the bill up? Gentleman, Mr. Fleming, and seconded by the gentleman, Mr. Donahue. Thank you.
Chairman Freeman, Chairman James, thank you for having us. Thank you for considering this commission bill. House Bill 2449, Chairman Freeman, as the prime sponsor, is a bill that is part of a three-bill package that would actually alleviate the issues involved with stalemates in vacancy procedures in municipalities. As everyone is probably aware, particularly those who have experience in local government at the municipal level and the governing body level, when there is a vacancy, the governing body's remaining members fill the vacancy, and they're obligated to do so under the statutes within 30 days. If there is a stalemate after the 30 days, a vacancy board is convened. The vacancy board is comprised of the remaining members of the governing body and one resident of the municipality that is appointed, presumably at the beginning of the organizational meeting at each year or any time thereafter. There is some flexibility in the statute. The vacancy board has 15 days, and then thereafter, upon petition of residents of the municipality, you can go to the Court of Common Pleas. The problem with the current statutory scheme is that these timeframes are mandatory. So if you're faced with a situation where the remaining members of the governing body, and this is going to occur mostly in 3-member governing body situations, where the remaining members are at loggerhead, we have a situation where we're actually delaying the conduct of the people's business. So this commission bill would allow governing body members remaining within the 30 days to convene the vacancy board. If there is no vacancy board chair, okay, they can go forward to CCP without waiting for that arguably arbitrary 45-day period and get the court to appoint a new member of the governing body so business can continue at the municipal level. There is also an issue that is alleviated by this bill in the context of resignations. The current statutory scheme provides that resignations are not effective until they're accepted by the remaining members of the governing body. Now, the problem is, and I'll give you a scenario, if you've got 2 remaining members on a governing body, and I know these facts are exotic, and then one of them decides to resign and leaving only 1 member left on the governing body, the statute doesn't contemplate how that person's resignation would be accepted. So what... I know it's a little bit of a chess game, but what we're doing here is we're saying that resignation is effective within 2 business days of when it is tendered, notwithstanding the fact that there is no remaining governing body to accept it. And then consequently, there's also a provision that says when a majority of the governing body is destroyed, okay, is gone, you can go the remaining members or the 15 residents of the municipality can pursue the action at the Court of Common Pleas to have the vacancies filled. So what we're doing here is we are eroding the arbitrariness of the timelines within the municipal code, within the municipal codes themselves. This is the second-class township code, to allow them to get the vacancy filled as quickly as possible and address the arbitrariness in those timelines. And we're here and available to answer any questions that may need to be answered about the bill.
I thank you. Are there any questions of the members from the Local Government Commission staff? Seeing none, it seems pretty straightforward. Any further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, we will take a vote. All those in favor of the legislation, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And I imagine it's unanimous as far as Democrats and Republicans.
Correct.
25-0. Bill will be reported as committed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Our next bill is by Representative Probst, House Bill 2458. Is there a motion to bring up the bill? Moved by the gentleman, Mr. Donahue, and seconded by the gentleman, Mr. Fleming. You guys are a tag team today. This bill is before us. Did Representative Probst wish to make some comments? I know she's joining us virtually.
Yes, thank you so much, Chairman, and thank you for allowing me to speak virtually. The reason that 2458 is out is because in my district, not only do I have so many homeowners associations, but I also have the longest commutes in the nation. And there's a lot of transient, there's rentals, it's always on the move. And I got several complaints that AKA Berkheimer, they only send out one delinquency notice when it comes to, local tax delinquency. And there's a couple things. A lot of my HOAs have mailboxes that are broken into. The Postal Service doesn't go home to home. They work in New York or New Jersey, and they may say, oh, I already pay my local tax, and maybe they ignore it. Maybe they don't get it. Even though there is a commuter tax break they could get, a lot of people just don't know that. So I've had complaints that they could go years without knowing this, and then suddenly they get a bill where the interest outweighs the actual amount that they owe, the late fees. So on Monday, a gentleman from Berkheimer came to meet with me about the bill because initially they were opposed to it because even though they have the infrastructure, they felt that by doing a registered mail or a certified letter would just be too much of an expense. They have to quote unquote pass on to the person who's delinquent. So after our discussion, he realized that my point is valid because what happens is when they don't get the payment, they have to go to a magistrate and pay that fee. And then half of the time they can't find the people, they can't track them down, and they can't collect. So what I'm trying to say is a lot of the people don't even know that they're delinquent. And then, other people, they can't find when it's 2 years later. So by putting the registered mail on the front end of it, they will end up having not only a better they'll probably most likely have a better collection rate, but also they can guarantee that people actually know they're delinquent. And so the little bit of money that's spent on the front end, which Berkheimer, for example, already has the infrastructure to do that, will save them time and energy on the back end when they're trying to track people down and taking them to the magistrate for that filing fee, on top of 2 years of interest that compiled on a bill that someone may not even know they have. So I feel this bill is common sense, and I feel that it'll be a better collection rate for the local municipalities. And then when somebody actually doesn't pay their bill after registered mail, then you can go after them earlier, have a better chance of collection. I hope this makes sense. So thank you for letting me speak. And that is why, I'm urging a yes vote to House Bill 2458.
Thank you for your comments. There are
Okay, thank you. So a question first and then a comment. Would you clarify for the panel here what taxes are actually affected, what delinquent taxes are actually affected by your bill?
Sure. The local, so someone like a Berkheimer would be your local income tax. And they have the right to like garnish wages when some people don't even know that they're delinquent. So the fact of the matter is that when Berkheimer came in to see me on Monday, because they did oppose this bill, and it was basically they opposed it because of Section B, the certified or registered mail. After we discussed how it's a win-win for not only, the local tax collection, but also for the people that need to pay the taxes, he said he was taking it back to the lobbyists because he really did understand the point of the bill. So this is for local. So if you have somebody that lives in Pike County in part of my district who has a Berkheimer tax, a local tax, and they're working in New York or New Jersey, and they're also paying that local tax, for example, they may not understand they have to pay both. They may not understand that they will actually get a tax break with the commuter discount they could get. They may not have even gotten the delinquency notice, and it happens all the time. And they're not required, even though they say that they send out, multiple. It was confirmed that they don't. They might send out one delinquency notice, and then 2 years later, suddenly they're getting, that's when they're getting a registered letter that says, oh, by the way, you owe this and we'll see you in court. So why not do that when it becomes delinquent, when they don't get a response after their first regular letter? Why not do that then so that they can track the people down, either get a payment plan or get it squared away where the people can actually pay this bill that is typically affordable. But when the interest rates way outweigh the delinquency, it's insane. So thousands of dollars for something that would have been a $200 bill.
Thank you very much. I was remiss in not calling upon Mr. Costelli to give us an overview of the bill. I think
It's okay.
we kind of know what it is, but if you'd like to give a brief overview.
House Bill 2458, Representative Probst's bill. The bill would amend the Local Tax Enabling Act to require tax officers to send 2 notices to a taxpayer for delinquent earned income and net profits tax. And the notices shall be in writing and be delivered to the taxpayer by registered or certified mail. And this would be done, must be done within 15 days prior to the presentation of notice and demand to the state treasurer or other fiscal officer. Under the current act for taxes levied under this statute, it's 1 notice by registered or certified mail. So this would be requiring 2 such notices.
I know that Chairman James has another question or so, but Mr. Bianchi is present, who lobbies for the Berkheimer and other tax collectors, I believe. Yes. Did you have a few comments?
I can't hear him.
Oh, he's hasn't spoken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, Lou Bianchi on behalf of H.A. Berkheimer, and I'm aware of the conversation. With all due respect to Representative Probst, I believe the conversation ended with they agreed to disagree. Berkheimer opposes the legislation, and they deliver or mail out 3 to 5 non-registered regular mail notices to the delinquent taxpayer before the certified letter goes out. And frankly, often what the situation is that the taxpayer is just unable or unwilling to pay. And if they don't respond, if the delinquent taxpayer does not respond with the number of notices they are getting, is a second certified letter going to be helpful, a third, a fourth? There are costs to the municipality, costs as well as on to the delinquent taxpayer. And so, again, they oppose the bill.
Representative Probst.
If I could respond.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
thank
was
you.
gonna recognize
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, it wasn't an agree to disagree. It was, I see your point and I'm taking it back to the lobbyist firm. That's exactly how this conversation ended. And there's not 4 to 5 letters that go out. And we know this because these are the complaints that we're getting. And you're lucky if you get 2 notices. Half the time it's only 1. When you get the 4th or 5th, it could be 2 years later when the bill that was once $200 is now $2,000. And then you can't even track these people down because they've moved or whatever the circumstance is. By doing this on the front end, not only will you have a higher collection rate, but you will also be able to save money because you're not filing fees at the magistrate offices trying to track down people. So by the time you send out, as you say, 4 to 5 notices, which isn't true in my district, and by the time you do that, 1 registered letter equals the 4 or 5 notices. So then you instantly can take them to the magistrate instead of waiting years. So I don't know what to say about your response, except that I wholeheartedly disagree. And in fact, what I've heard back from my municipalities is they don't care either way. They just want their money. So they have no say in it whatsoever. So they're not opposed to this.
Thank you for the clarifications. I know Chairman James had additional comments.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So not only does Berkheimer have a problem with this and does oppose it, according to the communication I got this morning, they may have changed their mind, I guess, over the last 2 hours. Pennsylvania Tax Collectors Association and the Keystone Collection Group also oppose it. Their position, I think, is that it's an unnecessary expense all the way around. And then a further comment, in a former life, I actually perform collection activities for delinquent loans and different things like that. We don't know why the people aren't paying, but if one of the reasons is they don't have enough cash flow to keep their family fed, these delinquent notices they're meaningless to them. They're a sidebar that doesn't matter. If they're just downright cranky, garnishment is kind of a mean way of getting the money, but I agree that that is an option. But the point is, if they're not picking up their mail and they're not signing for these certified letters, that information is not getting to them anyway. And trust me, if you're delinquent on something and the postman tells you, sign for this letter, you're not signing. You're just not going to do it because you don't want that information. So for that reason, Republicans will all be a no on this particular bill.
I thank the gentleman.
Yep.
I just want to note, too, that the Pennsylvania Municipal League and the Boroughs Association are both neutral on the bill. They have not taken a stand either way. But I think in the case of Representative Probst's district, too, you have a lot of people who are living in Monroe County but work out of state, may even be from out of state originally, and not necessarily familiar with some of the types of taxation that are levied, such as the earned income tax. So a notification like this by registered mail could be helpful in reminding them that there is in fact a tax, but I suppose it's a matter of opinion.
Sure is.
Any more comments?
Brett.
Oh, Representative Miller.
Sorry, Brett.
Mr. Caselli, could you just outline the time frame of these mailings?
John?
Well, the statute simply says within 15 days prior to the presentation of a notice and demand to the state treasurer or other fiscal officer.
So where would the two notifications, what would the calendar of that notification be?
It just says it's the current law says one within 15 days, and this is saying two before 15 days before making
So-
the presentation.
So theoretically,
it's
they-
duplicating what the current law is stating for another mailing by certified or registered.
So theoretically, they could mail two on the same day and meet the intent of the law.
Doesn't specify the dates.
The other
One has to be
the-
registered.
The other question I have is if the person responds to the first one, my understanding from the bill is that the cost will be borne by the person receiving the delinquency notice. If the person responds on the first one, then they're going to get a second one by law when the second one wouldn't be needed. So I just want to add that.
If I
So,
could answer
thank
that?
you.
Representative Probst.
So no, if they respond, then they don't, because then they're setting up their payment plan or making or paying it over the phone, or however they're going to do it. This is to make sure that maybe that person moved, so maybe he didn't get the original, regular mail. So this way, by doing the registered letter preemptively before all the interest gets tacked on, they'll have a better chance of, he moved, down the road, or he moved to Smithfield Township instead of, Middle Smithfield Township. So this is just a way for, it's not quote unquote junk mail. Another thing is Berkheimer calls people. Now the IRS has commercials, "We never call you." Who would ever take their phone call? You would think it's a scam. So something that is certified and registered is for real. And I just don't understand how you could say that, sending these letters, if you keep sending a letter to someone that's not, getting their mail or has moved, and then 2 years later they find out that they had this bill and then they owe thousands of dollars, I just don't find that to be fair. And this is a collection rate that I guarantee you will more than pay for itself, and you'll actually get the collection for these municipalities. If it's like, it's preventative. It's preventative from going through the nightmare situations that they've been going through after the fact. So, like Chairman James said, some people they just don't want to pay. Well, then if you're going to have those people out there, but most people who live in their home and work, and they do want to pay, they don't want to owe extra on interest, and they don't want to be threatened garnished wages. They want to pay their bills. So for the one scammer that doesn't want to pay, you have 1,000 of them that do, and they honestly don't even know about it.
You had one follow-up question, then we have
Thank
to
you.
move
I
on.
would just say that the law, as noted on page 2, line 16, clearly says that these agencies shall provide no less than 2 notices. It does not say if the person responds to the first one. It says they shall provide no less than 2. I think that's a unfair expense added on to a person who may already be in a bad situation. Thank you.
Perhaps it could use a clarifying amendment for the floor, which Representative Probst could work on.
Yep,
with the
I'd
committee.
be totally open to that. No problem at all. But remember, they're also paying the expenses for the magistrate on the back end, which half of the time they can't even find the people. So either way, the delinquents, the person that's delinquent is going to have to pay something, but it's a lot less of a burden than the interest that piles up.
With that, we'll move, because we have a pretty lengthy agenda to still get through. All those in favor of the bill, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. Okay, all the Democratic members by designation are yes votes, and all the Republicans, both present and by designation, are no votes. So the bill passes 14-11 and will be sent to the floor of the House. That brings us to our next bill, which is House Bill 2497, a Joe Cerisi bill. Mr. Cerisi is here, but first we'll have an overview from John.
Okay, House Bill 2497, this is Representative Cerisi's bill. This bill would amend the Uniform Parcel Identifier Law to require that fees associated with recording documents be set at a flat rate per Uniform Parcel Identifier. Additionally, the total fee charge for recording a single document would be capped at no more than $10,000.
Representative Cerisi is here. Did you want to make a few brief comments? Oh, we do need to do a motion too. I guess we'll go with Fleming and Donahue again. I got to get Madsen in here at some point. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, both chairmen, for allowing me to speak, and the committee. This bill is back to when we talk about common sense, and Representative Miller brought up a little while ago, charging our constituents, whether it's be raising taxes or raising fees. And this bill came out of an issue that we saw happen a couple of times where companies went to get some work done, and one company paid $484,000 for a recording fee of one fee. So it was a money grab possibly by the borough, the municipality, or the county. I won't mention who they were, where it happened, but this made it easier to say, look, $10,000 is as much as you're going to pay. Now, we're not telling them what to charge. We're not telling them they have to charge anything. We're not telling them that they have to charge $10,000, but the fee cannot exceed $10,000, which is still a very high fee. But it beats $484,000 at one instance, and the other one was $192,000. This makes it a lot easier for our businesses when they go to record documents, people who have properties, and it makes it known throughout the Commonwealth as the cap, so everyone knows where they're going with it. So thank you for consideration. If there's any questions, please let me know.
Gentleman for his comments, and thank you for your presence here today. Is there any other discussion on the legislation? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All Democrats.
Roll call vote on our side, please.
Oh, okay. All Democrats are recorded in the affirmative, even those by designation. And if you could do a roll call for the Republican members.
Chairman James.
I'm a yes.
Representatives Banta,
Yes.
Fink,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Jones,
No.
Kuzma,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes. Oop, sorry.
Rader,
I'm on a roll.
Rader,
No. I mean, yes. I'm sorry.
Rinkavage,
Yes.
Watro,
Yes.
Wentling.
Yes.
24-1.
Vote is 24-1, and the bill will be reported to the floor of the House. Oh, thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Cerisi.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for the support of this bill. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
I have to correct that.
Oh, there's a correction to the vote.
Yeah, the last one on the list, Wentling, wants to be a no. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So it's
23-2.
23-2.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to our next bill, Senate Bill 867, a Kearney bill. Is there a motion to bring up the bill? Fleming and Donahue. Representative Madsen didn't move quick enough, sorry. And we also have the local government commission. This is a local government commission bill, and Chris Ghazi will be giving us an overview. Chris, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I actually did not hear you clearly. Did you say that we're doing 867 first?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
All right, so this is a bill that would repeal and reenact the city classification law. The city classification law is the statute that deals with creating the order between the various cities. It's why Philadelphia is the city of the first class, and Pittsburgh is the city of the second class, Scranton is the city of the second class A, and everyone else is third class. The city classification law of 1895 is very difficult to interpret. It has been amended again and again and again and again for essentially purposes of making sure that cities stay in the classification, that other legislation had been written for them over time and not pushed out. And this happens most frequently with Scranton, because Scranton has gone from being a higher population city to a a middle population city. And so our goal here, after we moved the third class city code into Title 11, was to also put the city classification language into Title 11 for order and clarity, and replace the very complex original city classification law with one that's very simple. Quite simply, if your classification is set now, it can stay there. It can go up if you increase over the 250,000 threshold, or increase over the 1 million threshold, which no cities are currently moving in that direction. And it can decrease if you fall below those population levels and are not home rule. To go change your classification and you are home rule, you must specifically amend your charter asking to change your classification. And in order to be a second class A, you have to reach the population threshold for second class A and specifically ask to be city of the second class A. So long story short, the tangible impact of this bill should be very, very negligible. But its legal impact is that it removes any of the ambiguities that currently exist in the city classification law, and provide legal predictability and stability moving forward. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Just one.
Scranton already does have a home rule charter. And so, yes, this does say that any future municipality that would want to become a second class A would need a home rule charter. And the reason for that is that there is no such thing as a second class city A code. So there is no organic governing body law that covers the types of powers and duties that we expect to find in a municipal code. There's various snippets of law that currently apply, but it would leave a third-class city that progressed without a home rule charter with a lot of questions on things like, how would we do competitive bidding? What are the appropriate purposes and powers? Should our police department have civil service, for example?
Thank you for that clarification. Are there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Representative Madsen?
Yeah, this isn't necessarily pertinent to the bill, but I do have some questions largely around home rule charters and the process, because I find it to be little confusing and cumbersome for municipalities that participated. We had a big conversation whether or not we should do it. This is back when I served on Harrisburg City Council. So at some point down the road, I do think there should be a conversation around reform around home rule charters, because I do think, correct me if I'm wrong, don't most, once they go to the part where everybody has to vote, do not pass?
I actually don't know the pass-fail statistics there,
Okay.
but it certainly is not universal one way or the other. It is a lengthy process. It involves 2 referendum and the creation of a plan and a government study commission and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And at the commission, we're happy to have a conversation with you, work on any legislation that you would like in that regard.
Yeah, because I just have the sneaking suspicion that a lot of folks, and I get what the bill's trying to fix, but if your population's growing to a certain point and you think, okay, well, let's become a second-class city because it just makes sense for where we're at and some of the benefits that could come with being a second-class city, a home rule charter could, especially when it gets to the referendum parts, cause some problems, especially if residents don't understand it and vote no.
Yeah, I believe there's only one third-class city above maybe 40 or 50,000 that does not have a home rule charter. I should say not 40 or 50 or 60,000. Most of the larger third-class cities already do have home.
Oh, okay, it's good to know. So, thank you.
I thank the gentleman. And just as a sidebar, I served as chairman of the Home Rule Charter Study Commission in Easton when we went to establish a home rule charter. And we found that one of the best ways to ensure passage was to make it more than just about we need revenue. If it's an issue of just revenue, then the voters just sort of take a knee-jerk reaction to it. But if you make it about modernizing the administration of the city government, perhaps adding district seats to council as well to make sure neighborhoods are represented, and even offer the possibility of initiative and referendum to empower the voters, then the discussion on home rule charter, whether to have it or not, takes on a different level.
I would challenge the chairman to explain that to a constituent in 1 minute.
Well, all I can say is that ours passed pretty comfortably, so, but thank you. Okay, any other discussion or questions regarding the bill in front of us? Seeing none, all those in favor of the bill, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unopposed? Okay, then it passes unanimously.
Say that like a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, that brings us to our next bill, which is also a local government commission bill, Senate Bill 982 by Senator Dush. Is there a motion to bring up the bill? Oh, moved by Chairman James and seconded by Representative Madsen. Chris, do you want to give us an overview of this bill as well?
Sure. Under all of the municipal codes, it is a likely requirement of a public contract that when a municipality is paying for a contracted service or production or something along those lines, that contract security is a necessary part of that contract. For a long time, the main way of doing this security was through some form of bond, and bonds have a relatively complex enforcement mechanism that go along with them. During the last 20 years, all of the classes of municipal code have been amended to include as a possibility the use of an irrevocable letter of credit, which is a banking instrument where the party that is the beneficiary of the letter of credit is entitled to the value of that letter upon achieving a certain set of criteria. It happens. It is prearranged. There's no court process. And this is a more efficient method of contract security that's available everywhere except second-class townships. And while we were doing some comparative work on the municipal codes, we noticed that it wasn't in the second-class township code. We reached out to the Townships Association and said, would you like it to be? And they said, sure. So we brought this to the commission and introduced this legislation accordingly. So that's all that this is. It allows, as an alternative to a performance bond, the use of an irrevocable letter of credit.
Representative Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm familiar in this process coming from the perspective of first-class township where, you know, we still do it, at least when I served, we did it the old-fashioned way where you have a bond and, you know, as things were completed on a project, the bond amount lessons. Would you, for this process, would you have to get multiple letters as sort of progress is being made on that contract, or would the first letter serve as, and then the municipal officials would just get updates in terms of the work being done on that specific contract?
I don't believe that you would need separate letters, but I do believe that this largely comes down to good contracts lead to good contract outcomes.
Sure.
So if there are threshold things along the way, that would be laid out as part of the negotiation and the execution of the contract and the acquisition of the letter.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
And one question too, where would the letter of irrevocable credit come from?
I believe it comes from a bank. You
From
go
a
to a
financial
bank
institution.
and seek one. And my understanding of how it works is essentially that it creates you, in doing so, you've sequestered some amount of your financial resources that are devoted to the letter. And upon being released from the letter, you can utilize that portion of your financial resources again.
Representative Fleming again.
So also, municipal bonding is big business. So have we gotten a perspective on, you know, I mean, it just is. Have we gotten a perspective on how this change would affect financial? I mean, it's financial institutions putting up the bond. Are the financial institutions comfortable with, you know, and this is probably a may not a shall provision, but do we have any idea in terms of how they would view this change from a bond issue, which certain capital has to be put up and you need to actually purchase a bond, to this letter of credit, which I do not believe will be purchased? Like, will it affect, I mean, and not that I'm worried about big banks, but will it affect their business model?
One clarification before I address that directly. This does not replace the bonding industry. This is an additional form of security that could be elected. So if the security is one that you are able to go to your bank and say, I can provide this form of security, and the municipality says we are willing to accept this form of security, you could do so. It wouldn't be cumulative. You would not get a performance bond and a irrevocable letter of credit. It's that the municipality, in putting out for bid, is saying either we would accept either form of contract security, or we are asking for a performance bond, or we are asking for an irrevocable letter of credit. And the bidder is deciding, in putting together their bid, that they're willing to go and get one or the other.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the bill, please signify by saying aye. Oh, I'm sorry. No. Oh, Brett, did you wish to speak? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous on both sides of the aisle. So that is reported out 25-0. This brings us to our last three bills. Senate Bill 1132, Senate Bill 1133, and Senate Bill 1134. If there's no objection, I'd like to take them all as one, since they actually are the same bill, but just dealing with different codes.
I was going to request that, Chairman, so thank
Okay.
you for beating me to the punch.
Just to expedite our proceedings. Is there a motion to bring up the bills? Moved by Representative Fleming, seconded by Donahue. You guys have done exemplary duty today. We appreciate that. We do have Mary Yoder here, the Executive Director of the Senate Local Government Committee. But Rob, did you want to give an overview first, or?
Sure. Senate Bills 1132, 1133, and 1134 all amend the various municipal codes to allow on an annual basis the governing body of a municipality to waive the current limit set in law on how much can be set aside for compensation for fire and EMS services. In the laws currently, there's about a 3 mil tax for fire. The amount is capped at $500,000 that can be set aside for compensation. For EMS, it's a $500,000 tax, and half of that half mil can be set aside for compensation. These bills allow the governing body on an annual basis to waive that cap and dedicate more money towards compensation of the fire and EMS employees. So,
Thank you for that overview. Mary, you wish to make some comment?
Sure. Thank you very much, Chairman Freeman,
Sure.
Chairman James. On behalf of Senator Brown, she's sorry she couldn't be here today. But I just wanted to give a little background. Rob did a great job explaining the mechanism of the bill. Senator Brown was approached by one of her local EMS providers whose municipality had recently passed an EMS tax and was made aware after this tax had passed that there was a cap on the personnel requirement. So we took a look at the municipal codes, talked with all the municipal associations, decided that we wanted to do a mechanism whereby the governing body has the ability to waive this cap, should they choose to do so. The bill was amended on the floor. All three of them were amended on the floor by Senator Ferry to include fire in that as well. So it would apply now to both fire and EMS, and gives municipalities the ability to more adequately use the resources that they have to fill the needs that they may have. So appreciate your consideration.
Thank you very much. Any questions or discussion? Representative Fleming.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a brief comment. I support this move by Senator Brown. I think, as we're all aware, volunteerism is becoming less and less, especially when we talk about our municipal firefighters and our EMS. You know, the way EMS is structured, a lot of private nonprofits, some associated with municipalities or counties, but the vast majority not, and relying on volunteers. I think this is unfortunately something that is necessary. Yes, it may cost a little more, but I think the cost of doing this is certainly preferable to someone's home burning down and the loss of life or property by firefighters not being able to respond, and needless loss of life by EMS not having the ability to respond effectively. So, you know, as we look at our world now and what we deal with the number of volunteers dwindling in great numbers since the 1970s, I think this is just something that we have to look at and give municipalities a tool in the toolbox. It's not saying that they must do this, but giving them another tool in the toolbox to deal with the issues of emergency response, I think, is prudent. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank Senator Brown for her bringing this up.
Thank you for your comments. They were well taken, well said. Okay, with that, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the legislation, all three bills, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So they'll be reported out unanimously by both Democrats and Republicans, 25-0. And that concludes our agenda for today. So I wish to thank all the participants and the work of the members to pass this legislation out. This committee now stands adjourned.